Brian De Palma and Gary Sinise are here in De Palma's new film, Snake Eyes. The Secretary of Defense has been assassinated at a boxing match. A naval officer played by Sinise and his detective friend played by Nicolas Cage must catch the killer. Here is the trailer.
The house wings.
Joining me now, one of the stars, Gary Sinise, and the director, Brian De Palma. Sinise's Oscar-nominated performance in Forrest Gump made him a star. His projects since have included Apollo 13 and Ransom. He was also nominated for a Tony for directing the Sam Shepard play Buried Child. Filmmaker Brian De Palma has often been hailed as a master of suspense. Among his films, Carried, Body Double, Scarface, and The Untouchables. His most recent was Mission Impossible. I'm pleased to have both of them here. I apologize for being a little hoarse because I've got some kind of summer cold. Welcome. And I hope you don't walk away from this table with a cold. I want to talk about this film. First, just tell me about the idea for the film. I mean, it is a kind of suspense thriller. And after you tell me about putting it together and how you came to the idea, about what is the first 15 minutes about, which everybody's talking. It's almost, you know, something that people look at and say, wow.
Well, the idea came basically, David Koepp and I were trying to figure out what kind of movie we'd like to make after Mission Impossible, and we came up with this idea of telling a murder from multiple points of view. Then I, who had done a lot of reading about Howard Hughes for another project I was doing, sort of thought, what would happen if we made this murder happen during a big prize fight at a casino? Because Howard Hughes used to invite people to Vegas in order to make defense deals with all the, you know, congressmen and, you know, all the people in the Defense Department. So, having been growing up in, you know, Philadelphia and going to the Jersey Shore and watching the involvement of Atlantic City and how the casino affected the city around it, this all came together in this story. And the opening basically is the problem, the aesthetic problem, which is sort of interesting, is we're trying to create this whole movie within an enclosed space, which is the casino. And the whole idea of casino life is the longer you stay in the casino, the longer you lose. And the house always wins.
Right.
And so the movie basically starts on the boardwalk during the storm, goes into the casino, is in the casino and the hotel through the whole movie, and then comes back on the boardwalk at the end. And the trick is to try to make it work within that world. And the beginning starts out basically from basically all pointing into Nick as he is walking through this world. He's a corrupt
coming in to sit with his pal.
Sit with his pal.
Who was a staff aide to the Secretary of Defense.
Exactly.
But where did you get the idea of this sort of camera?
Well, I wanted to show the whole world, Nick's world, and I had to want to show the whole space, so I wanted to make it one continuous shot, and it goes on for about 13 minutes. And Nick is like talking a mad streak, and Gary's talking a mad. They never talk so fast in their lives.
But we can't talk about the ending of this film because
no.
Can we?
No.
So why?
Because it's a mystery.
Because it's a mystery, and it makes it no interesting.
Yeah.
What did you come to what made you want to do this?
To work with Brian and Nick, and you know, that they were the first elements that initially attracted me to it, and then I read the script and loved it and wanted to be a part of it. And I think, as Brian was saying about this opening shot, the movie takes place in real time, really. I mean, so many films cut to the next day and the next week and then 2 hours later and this and that. This movie starts and goes until it's over. And the choice of opening the film with one continuous, what is, I think, about 25 pages of dialogue, continuous dialogue and continuous movement is a beautiful way to get into this film that is basically real time. So you don't stop, and it must be a fifth of the movie is done in this one shot.
But it puts a lot of pressure on you, doesn't it? The actor?
Well, you know, actors are paid to walk and talk at the the time, and you know, that's,
if you can't do that,
if you can't do that, you may as well not do it.
Yeah,
but I had to walk and talk very fast. This is like Noel Coward on speed.
Yeah, because I think Nick said. What's Nick said? Go ahead.
Well, no, Nick was already up to speed when I started. I mean, he and Brian had been working a little bit. And you know, on the beginning of the film, so he was already in sync, and he was going, and I came in, and now it's my turn to start, and I'm like, well, don't I get a pause? Don't I get a breath? Brian was saying, no, I think it's got to be faster. Let's go. Let's get around the arena. And you know, at first you kind of say, well, wait, I'm not doing anything, but then it was beautiful and made so much sense, and it was a great choice. You know, you had to do that. You had to keep this thing going because it's one shot. You can't cut away to anything, and you're stuck with the pace that you shoot.
Reminded you of anything you've done before?
No, it's different. You know, that's one of the reasons I was attracted to it. It's a genre that, you know, the psychological thriller. I mean, he's a master at that. That's
body heat.
Really, I think it's the genre that Brian just loves the most, and he really relishes in. And so, you know, to work with him on that was so appealing to me because it's something different.
How do you, this is an easy question for you, but I mean, obviously we know why you chose Gary and his interest in it. Why Nick? Because you're working with Nick on another project too.
Well, I mean, you know, these are, you know, when you make movies that are like thrillers, you need the best actors in the world. I mean,
So you need
because
the best
they have
athlete
to,
on the stage.
not only that, but these guys ground your characters, because I have so many complicated, you know, cinematic things going on, and there's a very intricate mystery that's unraveling and different points of view. You need great actors to ground the material. And Gary, you know, came into this, and, you know, he was always questioning why his character was doing things. And, you know, and we constantly had to rethink his character, rewrite his character, because Gary had instincts of, well, this doesn't make any sense. Why would I do this? And that's the kind of act that you need in material like this. And Nick is exactly the same way.
What is it about this kind of film that appeals to you?
Well, because it's a great combination of cinema and drama. And what's interesting about their relationship is that it evolves into kind of a really strong character study, and that sort of came in the making of the movie. Kind of even surprised me. They have a scene in the control booth, which is like, with all the razzle-dazzle of the movie, it's the most strong, dramatic scene in the movie. That's basically both them just talking to each other.
What's the relationship? Nick plays a former cop who's sort of on...
No, he's an Atlantic City detective who's born and raised in Atlantic City. We're boyhood friends from Atlantic City. I left, though. I got out of town. I joined the Navy, left, and he stayed and joined the police force, and you know, pretty much has the run of the town to himself. He's a very flamboyant character, and you know, found his way around the town. I'm a military man. I'm a naval commander, and I've worked my way up in the military.
Roll tape. Here's another clip. Snake Eyes. Here it is.
Someday if I manage to get my face on TV a few times, maybe I'll run from there or something, but that's as far as I want to go. Because I was made for this sewer, baby, and I am the king!
Man. He delivered for you, didn't he? Yeah.
It's a lot of fun.
Because you're also a director, are you watching the direction of a movie like this when you got somebody you admire?
Absolutely. I mean, you can't help but absorb, you know, a lot from working with somebody like Brian. Since I directed my own film of Mice and Men, that was '91, I've worked with Brian, I've worked with Bob Zemeckis, Ron Howard, John Frankenheimer. I've worked with some good directors. And, you know, I think the next time out as a director, I'll just steal all Brian's stuff.
He stole it from somebody. Who have you gone to school on?
Oh, obviously, you know, Hitchcock to begin with, but you know, all the, you know, Ford, Wells, I mean, you know, all those great directors. You study their movies. Lean. I mean,
when you say you study their movies, what does that mean?
Well, they're favorite movies of yours. They're the ones you take off the shelf and watch like once a year.
Yeah.
And, you know, I don't have too many movies on the shelf to look at, you know, but, you know, Bridge on the River Kwai, A Touch of Evil, you know, even some, you know, kind of odd ones like Brazil. I mean, they're just so beautifully done. And they just work for you, and you sit down and you just are taken into the movie and you go, that's a great movie. I was just turned on the television set the other day and I was watching The Bad and the Beautiful, and it's a beautifully directed, beautifully written movie. And you go, God, could I ever make a movie like this? Why can't I? It's so simple. And I really strived in this movie to make it concise. I love this kind of precision in language. I love the speed, and I love the whole thing comes together in a very tight. I'm so tired of movies that you're like this, you know, 10 minutes into it, when is this going to be over? Because you know everything that's going to happen.
Well, you know, I pretty much make a decision that if I don't see something in the first 10 minutes that draws me in, you've begun to do just that. You're going to say, at what point is this going to take off?
Me, I'm out the door.
At 10 minutes, you're gone.
Absolutely.
Oh, yeah. Absolutely.
Life is too short.
Some character, some story, some event has got to grab you.
Absolutely.
For me, it's 5 minutes.
No time.
And I think as an actor, too, you know, speaking of that, playing a character like Wallace or Truman, I mean, part of the challenge there in a biography where you're playing somebody that, you know, people are familiar with, if you don't suspend their disbelief in 5 minutes. You're not going to get them at all. You've got to get rid of the fact that I'm Gary Sinise and I'm not the real George Wallace or Harry Truman within the first 5 minutes, or they're going to be struggling, saying, well, there's a lot of makeup there, isn't there?
Yeah, exactly. Now, because you've done those two, do you get the first call on a lot of historical stuff?
I just got offered the James Cagney story.
Fabulous.
Yeah, well, I don't think
We don't think so.
go there right now. They're good projects. That's the thing about some of these cable movies. They're doing good quality material. They take some chances that are quite strong, but I don't think you'd see Paramount making the Harry Truman story or the George Wallace story unless it was unless
right.
Nick was doing it, maybe.
Well, no, there you go. I mean, you can't take time off from big feature films. This was a $75 million film, right?
72.
72.
We brought it in at 68. I was the producer, I know.
You brought it in at 68?
Yes, I did. We were shot it all in Toronto, all in Montreal. I'm a big fan of the city. We worked all within their auditorium up there. I just shot a couple of weeks in Atlantic City, and I had a great cast. When you have a great cast that really knows what they're doing.
They show up on time, they're professional, you don't have any unusual
Plus,
delays.
they're very pleasant to work with.
Yeah.
This was one of the most pleasant experiences that I've had on a film. We finished 2 weeks early.
Schedule.
And that's a lot to do with how Brian just had the movie laid out, organized. We never had long days. We were done by 7:30 or 8 o'clock every day. It was pleasant to go to work. We got the work done every day. And the movie came in under schedule and under budget. And for a movie that big, that's Brian.
What's the largest role for a woman in this film?
Julia, who is the voice of truth and honesty within this terribly corrupt casino world.
Has a relationship with?
No, not with anybody. Basically, it looks like she's going to start a relationship at the end of the movie, but basically she's the one that walks into this totally corrupt world and says something that we might say today in our world, like, this is wrong.
Something is wrong.
Everybody looks at her like, who are you? You see this stuff all the time on shows on television. Everything, there's like a spin on this and a spin on that. This is a character that walks into this corrupt world and says, this is wrong. And Nick, who's got to do something because of the information that he gets from her, has got to do like the right thing in a totally corrupt world. And he said, this is like a nuisance to him. He doesn't want to hear it, and he doesn't want to do it.
And he's not used to it.
Yeah, when you
certainly not used to it.
Did you shoot this in sequence tonight, or you can't afford to do that
we started in Atlantic City, and then we went to Montreal and started the whole sort of beginning of the movie with Nick in more or less in sequence.
Yeah, and so how long is it?
The movie?
Yeah.
It's about 99 minutes. It's fast.
It's fast, yeah.
It's fast, it's tight.
And a fifth of it, you say, is the opening scene.
You should be exhilarated. You should be like I have the lowest, the smallest ability to deal with boredom in the theater. If it doesn't keep me entranced, I'm out there.
Let's see another scene. Roll tape. Here it is.
There were 2 hits. The girl next to me, she threatened him, took something, got shot, and ran away.
In this space.
You had the whole movie in that space.
Yeah. Which is the old hockey ring in Montreal. And we just took it all over. We built all the sets there. We had all our offices there.
So you just go to work and
exactly. You went downstairs.
Park your car and go to work.
Exactly.
Are you because of Mice and Men, because you're a married child, is that something you like very much to do? Translate great theater to film?
Well, it just so happens that I was familiar with Of Mice and Men.
Because of Chicago and Steppenwolf.
As a kid, I loved the story. We happened to have done that on stage together at Steppenwolf in Chicago, and I had just finished a long run with The Grapes of Wrath that ended up on Broadway, and during that I became very friendly and had a good relationship with Elaine, and I was standing with her, and I just said, give me the rights to Mice and Men to make a movie. I was just thinking, I had just seen Dances with Wolves in a rough cut, and I thought, well, if Kevin Costner is directing this and producing it and acting in it, I've got to find something to do. Yeah, because I was very impressed with what he did there, as a first-time director, and I had some experience directing theater and film already, and I thought, I've got to, you know, this is something that I want to do. And she was standing right there, and I just asked her for the rights. It's a beautiful story, and that's what matters. You know, what's the story, and do you connect to it in some way?
At first glance, it would seem that your career has, you know, has sort of progressed along a line that would be satisfying to you. Very good roles in very bankable movies like Forrest Gump. Assuming this, I mean, in a sense, you've had a chance to play a diversity of roles, gotten some attention for them, some awards for them.
Yeah, I've got no complaint about the roles.
Would you change anything? I mean, what would you want to be in a different place?
You know, I get frustrated sometimes with just the opportunities that are available, might be available to somebody like me. And
kiss the girl.
You know, I want to save the world and kiss the girl.
Yeah.
If I could do that, or at least, you know, save the town.
Kiss the dog.
Yeah.
But something.
Or the family. Something like that, and you know, something like that. You know, I'm always looking for different kinds of challenges. I think the bottom line is that my whole career has been, I'm a character actor. Coming from the theater, I've done a lot, worked on Harold Pinter plays and Sam Shepard and Tennessee Williams and a lot of, you know, very good writers, good literature, and I think I'll always be a character actor, but in Hollywood, you know, I mean,
one film away from being
you never know.
something else, right?
Yeah.
I mean,
absolutely
Nick
right.
made that progression, didn't he?
Absolutely.
I mean, he's a perfect example of somebody who didn't necessarily look or seem like a leading
Exactly
man.
right. Played
And
a
now
lot
he's
of small parts, bigger parts, character parts, and then, you know, he wins the Oscar for this very odd movie about a guy that drinks himself to death.
Laughing in Las Vegas?
Leaving Las Vegas.
And it was, what, about $1 million, $1.5 million movie?
He took no money for it and just did it because of the
But a role
work.
transformed the perception of what he could do.
Absolutely. And then he sort of consolidated his position by making these 2 big action pictures, and suddenly he's a big superstar, and he can get, you know, movies like R. Howard Hughes financed.
Yeah. So because of him, you can get the money for the movie.
Absolutely. Absolutely. You always have to get the big
So when you
superstar.
choose actors, you're thinking who can have who
You don't have a choice, Charlie.
Right. Howard Hughes would be being done on cable if Nick wasn't in it.
if Nick wasn't in it. That's right, because he brings them into the theater on the opening weekend.
Exactly.
Did you once say that you weren't that much interested in the relationship between characters in a movie?
I might have when I was talking about visual design early in my career, but I was trying to learn how to, learn the grammar of movies, and I always look to have the actors bring the reality to the characters and work with great writers. I mean, I've worked with Mamet, I've worked with Rabe, I've worked with Oliver Stone. I mean, I've worked with Schrader, I've worked with them all.
They're all cut of the same fabric in part, aren't they?
Yeah, difficult, complicated, and great.
They'll test any direction.
Right. You mean they don't like for you to tamper with their words?
How about get out of the room? Don't change it. David Mamet.
What would he say?
Basically,
What would
that's
he
it,
say?
pal.
He would say, "That's it, pal.
That's it, pal.
I'm out of here.
Yeah.
You got no writer."
I remember David Mamet came to see The Untouchables during the sequence on the staircase. You know, that big thing I shot with the baby carriages, which was not in the script because we didn't have enough money to do a train chase. He got up out of the screening and walked out of the theater during that sequence and then came back and resumed watching the movie.
That's great.
Didn't want to look at anything he didn't write.
Exactly.
Time for a bathroom break. Yeah.
Nice to have you here. Good luck with the movie. Thank you, Gary. Great to see you again.
Thank you.
Good to see you.
Thank you for joining us. See you next time.